Now it's time to start talking about scheduling. You're gonna have to schedule your time really, really well in order to make sure you use it very efficiently because, like we've been talking about, you have limited time and limited money. So you wanna make sure that you get the most out of all of it. So you need to spend a lot of time in pre-production on scheduling to make sure your time is used efficiently. I was just talking with a filmmaker just yesterday about pre-production and how he spent his time for his indie film is done really well. It looks super impressive. It looks like it had a budget 10 or 20 times what his actual budget was. But he said the key for him really was that he spent 8 months in pre-production before they ever started shooting the film. And he's working on the sequel to it now. And they're actually going to be spending more than a year of pre-production to make sure that everything is lined up so that he knows he's going to get the most on camera for his time and for his money. And I encourage you to do the same thing. You know, for me, there have been times where I've had very little time to spend on pre-production, and I didn't skip too many steps, but I had to do each step so quickly that I know if I had more time spending on that and I'd have more time to evaluate all the logistics and especially the scheduling and scouting of locations that it would have turned out better on camera. So it would have, I think pretty happy with the results, but it could have been better if I had more time in pre-production. So I encourage you, the time that you spend in pre-production, unless you're trying to hit a really specific window, the time for you doesn't cost you anything. So leverage the free time that you have as well to make sure that the best possible thing comes across on screen. So when we're thinking about scheduling and how you're gonna schedule the time that you do have your crew and actors and equipment there to capture, you're gonna wanna think about your schedule in terms of days and then also hours and minutes. When you get into scheduling the days, it actually a lot is going to come down to how you have formatted your screenplay. The reason why I say that is if you use the traditional proper formatting for your screenplay and you use software like Final Draft or Celtex or some other software that are out there, oftentimes they're going to have a tool that is very helpful actually for your scheduling based on the screenplay. And the reason for that is that, as we've talked about, screenplays are measured when they're properly formatted. The screenplays are measured as eighths of a page, and that's going to help you count up your pages and know your page count for the day. But then it also, how you head each scene is going to interact with the software and allow you to sort those scenes in a way that you can categorize and build your schedule off of that. And I'm going to get into that more in just a moment. But when we're building that schedule, remember we're thinking about you're going to try to have a screenplay that is how long? About 88 to 95 pages. Certainly no more than 95 pages. Closer to 90 is great. You might end up cutting a little bit off of that once you're in editing. You don't want your screenplay to end up as a movie that's too short. But that like 85 to 95 range is where you want to be. Again, if you're not aware, when properly formatted, your screenplay is going to equal roughly 1 page of the screenplay is going to equal 1 minute of the edited film. So if you're looking at 85 to 95 page screenplay, then that could be an 85 to 95 minute film. Let's say you end up trimming out a little bit and massaging it. Then you're still going to be really close to around 80 to 90 minutes, and that's where you want to be. So you've got your let's say 90-page screenplay, you have it ready, and then remember your schedule is probably going to be somewhere between 5 to 10 days. If you're able to go more than 10 days, that's great. With this budget range, it's probably going to be difficult to go much more beyond that. What Smells Like Community Spirit, again, $2,000. We shot over the course of 8 days. With fenced off, less than $20,000. We shot over the course of 12 days. It was two weeks that we shot, and each week we gave ourselves 1 day off. So that's how many days you have to work with. So if you do that math, you have 90 pages, and you have 5 to 10 days to shoot that. So you're going to have to be shooting 5 to 10 pages per day, and it's not going to equal out to an exact average exactly each day, but that's the range that you're going to look at. You're going to have some days that are a little more difficult, that you may only be able to shoot 5 or 6 pages. Other days that you're in the same location, maybe even the same room, and the same talent, and not as many camera setups or lighting changes. And so you might be able to get more like 10 or more pages in that day. So talked a lot about those numbers of pages and pages per day. This is how you're going to be able to measure those pages per day, and the easiest way to do it. So as I mentioned, if the screenplay is formatted properly, that's going to enable you to do that. So at the beginning of each screenplay, at the heading, you see these things. You see interior, exterior, or day, night. You see location, description of what's happening in that action. You'll also see, not necessarily in the heading, but you're going to be able to tell pretty quickly about length and the characters involved. So typically when you're formatting that headline, you're starting with interior, exterior, day, night, and then location, and then description. What I want you to do when you're labeling those headlines and you get to the location portion, you need to be really, really consistent in how you label your location, the name that you use, and that you work from what I call macro location to micro location. So what I mean by that is, if you're shooting in a business office and it's XYZ publishing office, then your headline for the scene is going to be interior, exterior, day or night, and then you're going to state XYZ publishing office, and then maybe there's a scene in the lobby, and there's a couple scenes in Mr. Jones' office, and there are a couple scenes in a break room. So when you label those, you're not going to label them as break room, or you're not going to label them as break room at XYZ Publishing. They're all going to be XYZ Publishing, then break room. XYZ Publishing, Mr. Jones' office. XYZ Publishing, lobby. So the reason you're going to do that then is, once you've completed your screenplay and you have the headlines made that way, you can use a sort filter by sorting by alphabetical order. So then it's going to group all the scenes that are at the same location together. So all the scenes that are at XYZ Publishing, no matter if it's scene 10 and scene 20, 21, 22, and then scene 90, it's going to group all those together. And that's going to help you build your schedule, because you're going to build your schedule off locations. You don't want to shoot your screenplay in order. You want to shoot it by locations. That's going to allow you to be more efficient. That's going to allow you to spend less time and money. So you use the sort filter, and then you look at those groupings, and you can see again with those page counts, you can see them grouped by 1/8 of a page. So then you can start to measure. It looks like we're at location A for 10 pages. It looks like we're at location B for 5 pages. It looks like we're at this location for this number of pages. So you have them grouped together. You can know what you need to capture at each location. You can know how many pages you need to capture, and you build your schedule accordingly. So the location that you have 12 pages, you might say, oh, those are kind of complicated scenes, and we have 12 pages. So we're going to have to spend 2 days at that location getting roughly 6 pages on each day. There's another location that we have. It is only, let's say there's a location that's only 1/8 of a page. And that's the only location, or the only scene that's at the location is 1/8 of a page. Then that's also going to make you aware that maybe we really need to think about, can that 1/8 of a page scene occur at a different location that already exists? So if we can reduce a location, then we're going to be able to be more efficient with our time, and we're going to be able to capture something on screen that's better than if we have to spend so much time and effort changing locations, getting everything arranged so that we can have this one scene that's 1/8 of a page. So it's something for you to consider. If you're formatting your screenplay properly, if you're using that strategy for the headline, then it's going to be easier for you to build that schedule. There's an example for what that screen breakdown looks like for that kind of spreadsheet and how you're going to break that down. There's an example in the downloads that you'll be able to reference. There's software that you can purchase where you can have that same type of screen breakdown layout. There are probably also some free options out there. What I've done though is I've used Excel, or I've used Google Sheets to build my own that's a very similar style, but that I can manipulate with my own nuances that I want, and that's free. That doesn't cost me anything, and you can use that same approach as well. Just use Excel, use Google Sheets, and you can build your schedule that way. Now that's how to take your whole screenplay and to break it down into days. We're also going to talk a little bit about how to break the days down into sections, or how you're going to spend each hour or each minute of the day within the day. You're going to need to think about the time it's going to take you to arrive and set up. Especially with each new location, that time is increased. If you're coming back to the same location each day, that time is decreased. You can possibly leave behind equipment, or at least everybody knows where to park, everybody knows where to enter, everybody knows where the equipment goes, and so that's gonna happen faster. Now, it can range broadly, but after doing this for a long time, both for film production and for commercial production, you can estimate that the beginning of the day is going to take you anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half probably to get everything set up and to get ready. Everybody's arrived, everybody's ready to go. Around 90 minutes. Sometimes it could be even as much as 2 hours, but you're going to want to think about an hour to two to get everything started. If it's a new location, it's almost definitely going to be more than an hour to get things rocking and rolling. So first, you're going to want to allow that 1 to 2 hours at the beginning of the day to get everything set up. Now, fast forward to the end of the day, you're going to need some time to wrap out and to exit, to get everything loaded out. That's going to take you probably about an hour. Maybe if there's not a lot to do and you're coming back to the location efficiency, then it may only take you 30, 45 minutes. But you're going to have to weigh that. If you have to completely wrap out, then it might be more like an hour or maybe even a little bit longer. You're going to want to keep your days to 12 hours at max. That's kind of a standard. Is the default is 10 hours. A long day can go 12 hours. After 12 hours, a lot of things happen. People get disgruntled, or people feel like their time is disrespected. People just get tired. And when they're tired, they get irritable, or it's a little dangerous because you're not as sharp and you're dealing with heavy equipment or dangerous equipment. So you're going to want to limit yourself to 12 hours. You're going to be super passionate about it. You're going to be excited. You're going to get some energy around it. You're going to start capturing scenes and things are cool. And you're going to want to push beyond that, and you should not. I have made that mistake. Early on, the first feature film that I worked on, day 3, I hate to say it, but we did like a 17 or 18 hour day, and people were so tired. People were starting to be dangerous with the lighting and rigging. Unintentionally, people were getting disgruntled, and we had a couple of crew members who decided at the end of that to say, hey, we cannot continue like this. If this happens again, we're done. And you're going to have to make some changes. And that was a really great wake-up call for us. So we had to think about what we were doing differently, and we had to, in consideration of time and everybody's safety and well-being, we had to sometimes say, you know what, that was a pretty good take, and that's good enough, and we got to move on. We can't always have every take be excellent and get into another 15 or 17-hour day at the risk of losing our crew and/or people's safety and the morale of the crew. So you're going to want to limit your days to no more than 12 hours. That's about what we can sustain at that pace and at that energy level. Do 10 to 12 hours for your day. And then at the end of the day, you have to consider, in your planning for the schedule, the turnaround time, the time from where you wrapped one day and where you start the next day, a minimum of 10 hours. Minimum of 10 hours. That's what you need to allow folks time to drive home, to get some food, to get some rest, get back up and get back to set. Is a minimum of 10 hours. I would encourage you to push it to 12. If you can flip it and do 10-hour days and 12-hour turnaround, that's going to be even better. So when you're scheduling that 10 to 12-hour day, again, an hour to the beginning of the day for setup, an hour at the end of the day to exit and wrap out. So that's gonna allow you anywhere from 9 to 10 hours in the middle of that to capture your material. Now, you're going to have to take a meal break. You need to take a meal break. You need to take the meal break around 5 to 6 hours into the day. If you were working with a union crew, you would have to get that in within 6 hours, or there's a penalty for that. I think you should do it anyway, just to keep morale up and to be a decent human being. You need to try to fit that in. So looking at somewhere between that 5 and 6 hour mark, you need a meal break. So now you're down to 8 to 9 hours of actual time of shooting that's not part of setup or wrap out or a meal break. So with that 8 hours, you're going to look at the number of pages that you have to cover and the number of camera setups that you need to accomplish. It's each time you move the camera to a completely different angle and a potentially different lighting, but definitely a different camera move or setup. If you're moving the tripod from one place to another, or completely resetting where the cam op is, that's a setup. So you can probably do anywhere from 20 to 30 setups in a day. You might go a little bit beyond that. I've been on some movies where we're really cooking, rocking, and rolling. We don't have to do many lighting changes. We don't have to do many changes out with the wardrobe and the actors that we're using. And because we're using the same location for several days at a time, then we were able to get more than 30 setups in a day. If you're changing a lot, if everything's super complex, if you're having to change lighting constantly, then you may only be able to do more like 15 setups in the day. And you're going to want to pay attention to how long each setup is taking. You know, if you're really, really fast, each setup might only be a 10 to 15 minute change. It can take as long as 20 or 30 minutes for that change. If you're doing a complicated dolly move or some type of gag or something that's more complicated, then it can be more than 30 minutes just for that one camera setup. If you want to think about it as an average, then you could look at, if you feel like you're going to be pretty fast, you have location efficiency, the actors aren't changing out of wardrobe, those sorts of considerations, then you can look at, you're probably going to be at 15 to 20 minutes per setup. So we talked about how to spend each day and how many days you're going to need and the scene breakdown. But then you also need to consider when you're shooting, what days or what locations and what order you put that in. And it can often become a little bit of a chicken and egg situation. You might be trying to align the availability of a location and the availability of some of the talent and fighting that schedule, and you're not sure where to start. And that's a common occurrence. It happened to us, especially when we were shooting A Strange Brand of Happy, and our lead female had a complicated schedule, and she had a very narrow window that she could do the film and the days that she needed. And it wasn't the most efficient way to build the schedule from scratch, but we had to decide if we want that particular actress in that particular role and everything that she brought to the table, then we were going to have to rearrange the schedule a little bit based on that. And there's a little bit of back and forth. Sometimes it's based on availability of location. Sometimes it might be the talent. Sometimes you might have to go to, a plan B or C for the location if you want to accommodate the talent, or, swap out and go to plan B or C for the talent if you really want to accommodate a particular location and the availability of that location. Now, you also want to consider is starting your entire schedule out on a lighter, easier, more familiar day for the entire film. So day one, you're going to want to think about a location that you're really comfortable with and actors that are involved in the scenes in that location that seem the most ready to go, or that you're the most confident in, and scenes that aren't super draining or super complex, because you're still working out the kinks and you're still figuring things out how you're going to work together, and you want to make sure that first day is a quick win for you. So you don't want to try to shoot a ton of pages on the first day or try anything super complex, but just get the basic elements in place, capture a few things on camera, and smooth out those wrinkles and make sure everything's ready to go. I still remember with Smells Like Community Spirit, I can watch the movie and I know what scenes were shot on day one because they're some of the weaker scenes. You could tell as the days progressed, everybody got better and better at their job and more comfortable. And by the second half of the schedule, we had some really solid scenes that we were doing. So certainly you don't want to shoot anything super pivotal on day one. You want to keep day one as simple and easy and light as possible. Everybody feels good about it and comes back for day two with excitement and confidence and ready to tackle some hard things. The same thing with the individual days. You probably want to begin the day with the easiest possible scene to execute as well. You'll have to think about efficiency and the order of the scenes and how they build upon one another, maybe with actor changes and wardrobe changes and lighting and things like that. But if you can start the day with the easiest scene of the day as well, again, it's a quick win. Everybody feels good. Everybody has confidence, and that momentum just builds throughout your time and throughout the feature film principal photography process.